Welcome to our US briefing show, everyone. Today, we're diving into some hot topics. First up, Israel has proposed a ceasefire deal with Gaza, offering to release 10 hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The plan aims for a 45-day truce, with Israel withdrawing from parts of Gaza and aid getting in to help civilians. But, there's some skepticism from Hamas, especially about disarmament and the return of Israeli forces. Negotiations are ongoing, mediated by Egypt and Qatar, with plenty of tension in the air. Next, let's talk auto tariffs. A new 25% tax on imported auto parts just kicked in, mainly targeting Mexico, which could bump up vehicle prices by roughly $4,000. This could change the industry forever, pushing up repair and insurance costs for consumers and creating a ripple effect across the market. Industry experts warn that these tariffs might lead to big shifts in how cars are made and sold, so stay tuned for what's next. And finally, a safety scare at Washington's Reagan National Airport. An Army Black Hawk helicopter flying to the Pentagon caused 2 commercial planes to abort landings. The FAA and NTSB are investigating, but the incident has reopened concerns about airspace safety, especially after a deadly crash earlier this year. It's a reminder of how busy and complicated our skies are, and the importance of strict safety measures. Please continue to watch for more details. The Guardian reports that Hamas is currently examining an Israeli ceasefire proposal that could see 10 hostages released in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The proposal, which Hamas received in early March, suggests a 45-day ceasefire during which negotiations would aim for a permanent peace. The plan includes the release of Eden Alexander, an Israeli-American held hostage, as a symbolic gesture, and the potential release of 9 more hostages in 2 phases. However, Hamas has expressed skepticism, particularly over Israel's demands for disarmament and troop withdrawal, which they see as red lines. The proposal also involves complex exchanges of information and remains of deceased individuals, alongside a temporary halt in military operations and humanitarian aid entry. Negotiations are ongoing, with Hamas meeting mediators from Egypt and Qatar, but Israel's position remains cautious, especially given past misinformation from Hamas about hostage statuses. CNN details Israel's first formal ceasefire proposal since its renewed offensive in Gaza, which includes the release of 10 hostages and a temporary ceasefire lasting 45 days. The plan involves Israeli troop withdrawals from parts of Gaza, including Rafah and sections of Gaza City, and the disarmament of Gaza's militant groups. The proposal emphasizes the importance of securing the release of all hostages and gaining information about those still held, while also aiming to establish a permanent ceasefire within the proposed timeframe. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has indicated that steps are underway toward a deal, with negotiations focusing on the release of hostages and the conditions for a sustainable peace. Despite some optimism, there remains skepticism, especially after Hamas's previous misinformation about hostage fates and internal disagreements over the scope of negotiations. The South China Morning Post reports a disturbing incident at Washington's Ronald Reagan National Airport, where a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter flying to the Pentagon caused 2 commercial flights to abort landings due to safety concerns. This event has sparked criticism from transportation officials, with Secretary Sean Duffy calling it unacceptable and questioning why rules were ignored. The helicopter was reportedly following approved FAA routes but was directed to perform a go-around over the Pentagon helipad to avoid congestion, leading to the abrupt safety measures. The incident raises ongoing concerns about airspace safety in the heavily congested Washington area, especially after a deadly mid-air collision earlier this year. The FAA has since tightened restrictions on helicopter flights near the airport, but investigations continue to determine whether this particular flight violated safety protocols. The incident underscores the delicate balance between military operations and civilian air traffic safety in a busy and complex airspace. The Washington Post reports that President Donald Trump's administration is preparing to cut approximately 1,200 jobs from the CIA, along with thousands more from other intelligence agencies, as part of a broader effort to downsize government operations. This strategic move, which members of Congress have been briefed on, aims to reduce hiring rather than resorting to layoffs over several years. CIA Director John Ratcliffe, appointed in January, emphasizes that these changes are designed to energize the agency, foster leadership, and align its capabilities with national security priorities. Despite the lack of specific confirmation from the CIA, the agency's spokesperson highlighted a commitment to producing objective intelligence free from political bias, with plans to continue gathering human intelligence globally and conducting covert operations as directed by the president. The ongoing downsizing also involves firing junior officers and offering buyouts to some employees, reflecting a significant shift in the agency's staffing and operational approach. Meanwhile, Florida's legislative session has been marked by intense inter-party conflicts that have prevented the passage of the state budget, forcing lawmakers into an extended session scheduled through early June. Despite holding a GOP supermajority, legislative leaders could not reconcile differing philosophies on tax policy, with disputes over proposals like a permanent sales tax reduction and property tax elimination. The session saw the passage of 205 bills, including measures that tighten ballot initiative hurdles, reform condominium safety regulations, and ban fluoride in drinking water, yet several of Governor Ron DeSantis's priorities, such as lowering the minimum firearm age and expanding gun rights on college campuses, failed to advance. Notably, lawmakers also moved to curtail the governor's power, passing bills that could override vetoes and restrict development in state parks, exemplifying the ongoing power struggles within Florida's political landscape. The session's costs are staggering, with taxpayers footing an average of $50,000 daily for the extended legislative work. The South China Morning Post underscores the importance of distinguishing between a government's policies and the humanity of its people amid rising tensions between the U.S. and China. Author George Cassidy Payne reflects on his personal journey through Chinese philosophy, learning from Confucianism, Taoism, and the Yin-Yang school, which challenged his Western assumptions and fostered a deeper understanding of Chinese culture. He emphasizes that Chinese civilization has contributed profoundly to human progress through inventions like papermaking and gunpowder, and advocates for viewing Chinese citizens as fellow travelers rather than adversaries. While acknowledging government flaws such as repression and human rights abuses, Payne argues that condemning an entire population based solely on state actions is morally wrong. In an interconnected world, he urges a nuanced approach rooted in wisdom and humility, warning against simplifying complex international relations into stereotypes or slogans that hinder genuine understanding and cooperation. The Al Jazeera report vividly describes the United States' strategic military expansion along the Mexico border, where a second zone has been established in Texas, following the creation of a similar zone in New Mexico last month. This new Texas National Defense Area spans a 100-kilometer stretch from the Texas-New Mexico border, allowing troops to detain migrants temporarily, with detainees then handed over to civilian law enforcement agencies like CBP. The military zones are designed to facilitate the detention of migrants without invoking the 1807 Insurrection Act, thereby enabling the deployment of military forces to manage border security amid an ongoing anti-immigration crackdown initiated by President Trump. The deployment includes nearly 12,000 troops, with border crossings hitting record lows, yet political tensions persist. Texas Governor Abbott proudly promotes border fencing efforts, while New Mexico's Democratic governor criticizes the zones as resource-wasting, deportation buffer zones, highlighting the contentious political landscape surrounding border security measures. Meanwhile, the South China Morning Post reports on the evolving U.S. stance toward Russia amidst the Ukraine conflict, as Washington prepares to impose new sanctions targeting Russia's banking and energy sectors, including state-owned Gazprom. These measures aim to intensify pressure on Moscow, especially as President Trump's approach appears to oscillate between sanctions and attempts at diplomacy. While some officials emphasize that Trump's approval is necessary for these sanctions, the president's recent actions, such as criticizing Ukraine's leadership, advocating for peace negotiations that favor Moscow, and meeting with Putin, suggest a nuanced and sometimes contradictory approach. Trump's frustration with Putin's rejection of ceasefire efforts marks a potential hardening stance, especially as Moscow escalates its military offensive despite extensive sanctions. The U.S.'s strategy could include secondary sanctions on oil and gas deals with countries like India and China, which would significantly impact Russia's ability to fund its war effort, signaling a complex interplay of diplomatic pressure and economic measures aimed at ending the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6-do brief via email.
Turn the lights on screen. What's the latest scene? Just you and me, laugh and disagree. On the couch we sit, talk about the hits, news and bits, chat through all the fits. 6-degree chess, gotta talk about that. Blind crazy chat, share where we're at. From molecular change to the world's big stage, everything's fair game under our spotlight's flame. Grab a coffee quick, get your hot takes thick. We're here to mix and pick, every topic's our flick. 6-degree chess, gotta talk about that. Blind crazy chat, share where we're at. Grab a coffee quick, get your hot takes thick. We're here to mix and pick, every topic's our flick. 6-degree chart.